Hello, I'm Nicolette Pomba-Fansale, editor of ESI magazine, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio. Today I have with me Silas Zimu, who is the energy expert advising the president in South Africa. And he will be speaking to us today around various topics in the South African generation and energy market. Welcome, Silas.
Thank you.
I'd like to start our conversation off talking about nuclear energy, because this has been on the cards in South Africa for a while now. And I want to find out, what is the progress that government has made?
Look, firstly, nuclear program is very important as part of our energy mix. Secondly, it can't be done abruptly. So it has to be done in phases for various reasons. Thirdly, as our old coal power stations are aging, we need to replace them. Fourthly, which is one of the most important things, we led the world at the COP21 in Paris to say the world has to go clean and green. So we can't continue aggressively as previously we used to on our coal. So nuclear comes in as a real coal replacer, because with nuclear you can then have your base load covered and ensure that the future is good and ensure that the maintenance is less. Currently, as Eskom had said, Quebec is the one that makes us to be able to afford the tariffs that we're doing now. So it's cheaper to run Quebec than some of the coal power stations. So the progress is we've gone out on request for information. We now have to go out on the detail with the technical details of how many megawatts, what type of technologies are we gonna need. We also have to be careful that we don't commit too much in megawatts and not allow ourselves to get the new technologies, because we are aware that there's now newer technologies in the markets. So with the current technologies, we cannot go for many years. But having said that, nuclear, even if we start it tomorrow, it's going to take another 10 years for it to be completed. So for me, it's not a matter that is as urgent as ensuring that we don't have load shedding, but we can't forget about it. There are many countries that are doing nuclear at the moment. They're going through their own challenges. We are learning from those challenges so that we don't go through the same mistakes. And if a country like the UK is going nuclear, really, South Africa needs nuclear for two reasons. For your grandchildren to have sustainable electricity, but I also believe, personally, that when you have nuclear, other superpowers talk to you nicely. They don't bulldoze you. And we need that in Africa. We need that in Africa. Not for South Africa alone, for the rest of Africa. Security.
That's a very good personal statement to make.
Yeah.
And looking again at clean energy, gas is being called the clean fossil fuel. And I know that the minister made a recent announcement around gas to power in terms of IPP, the IPP office. Where is South Africa also in terms of gas to power?
That's an important question. And your second part of the question is the most important, because that's our success story, the IPP office. Through the IPP office, we will do the gas to power. First expression of interest is out on Sunday in newspapers. Everybody excited. We need that gas. But as South Africa, we don't have access to too much of gas at the moment. But we've got a neighboring state that has got lots of such gas, which is Mozambique. And the Mozambique relationship with South Africa are very, very key for the purpose of gas. And Mozambique is prepared to supply all its neighboring states with this gas. But the main demand is in South Africa. And Mozambique strategically is nearest to our 21 pack power stations, coal ones in Mpumalanga. So to transport that gas from Mozambique to Mpumalanga changes what Mpumalanga is all about today. Remember, if we have to replace some of the coal stations to gas or convert them to gas, there's an economy that we don't want to hamper negatively. And that's the economy that coal has created in Mpumalanga itself. We don't want people to lose their jobs. So gas will ensure that those power stations are still running. Some would still be running on coal because there's now nanotechnologies from Russia, from Europe, that can reduce the pollution from coal by 50%. So we really don't have to replace everything with coal, with gas. But if today we have to say in the next 6 months, what can we get power from? Vis-a-vis nuclear, gas, coal, solar, wind. Gas gives us in 6 months, and Egypt has done this. In 6 months, we can get 1,000 megawatts into the grid. Because we need to go back to something that has actually started haunting me from 6 months back. What the Afrikaner government had done. For about 5 million of them, they had built more than 30,000 megawatts for themselves. And it created South Africa industrialization. It brought in the East Coast of this world, the Sasol of this world. And all of a sudden, we came into power 1994 and we eroded that power, that electricity. We need to go back and say, are we really fair to our grandchildren? How can and how did the Afrikaner government invest so much that our current finance people cannot understand? They invested for the future. And that's what we must do now. We must learn from the Afrikaners. We need to bring a minimum of 10,000 megawatts into the grid available. Special tariffs for different industries so that we can save our smelters, we can save ISCO, we can save many companies. And we can also stimulate to have more of the waterfall estate, more of the sentient cities around the country. Then that can position us to be an energy hub for the whole of Southern Africa, actually up to the important Inga hydro.
We've spoken now about nuclear, gas to power. You've mentioned wind and solar, the Renewable Energy IPP program that has been so successful. I want to move on to now the cost of power. Electricity tariffs in South Africa and the rest of Africa are increasing. How can we make the tariff for consumers affordable and sustainable?
Yeah, you've been asking me simple questions, now you ask a difficult one. But it's an important one. It's an important one. It's hurting for me to see Eskom and the NERSA, the regulator, not in sync. I still have to find out who has to be in sync with who. But as long as you're not creating jobs, as long as you're not creating enough jobs, it's unfair to expect people to pay for electricity. That's one. Two, by constitution, we said the executive mayors are the ones that have to provide services to the people. And the moment the executive mayors proclaim an area to say, this is a recognized area, it can have ERFs, there'll be rates and taxes, then by constitution you have to give those people electricity. The constitution doesn't say pay or don't pay for electricity. But it's unfair that you provide electricity by constitution, but after 3 months the utilities then send letters of lawyers to people who are not working, you know? And I'm talking here fairly so, as a person who can afford electricity, but knowing what the rest of our communities are going through by not having jobs, what the rest of our communities are going through by getting threatening letters from the lawyers. You know, we need to come up with solutions that are sustainable. We can't, for an example, continue saying we're going to write off the debt of Soweto. Okay? We are now, it's starting to be wrong and to sound wrong. This is where the renewable program comes in. This is where the distributed generation on gas, microgrids comes in. Let's give these people solar water heaters. Because for my grandmom, my late grandmom, coffee is a thing of the day. every day. She boils water the whole day. She only drinks half of that coffee because most of the time she's sleeping. She wakes up, she goes to her chicken and hen, takes a few eggs, boil them. Then she boils water to bath. 2-liter kettle onto a 100-liter bath. By the time she has enough water, the water is cold. Electricity bill is going up. The moral of the story is we can afford, as a country, to give free electricity through solar water heaters and solar panels for lighting, TV and refrigeration, and move everybody else from cooking and heating, from electricity to gas. Hence the importance of this relationship with Mozambique. Okay, so what we then do for new houses that we're building, those houses must be off-grid. Then we need to go back and say there's lots of squatter camps that are now proclaimed. What does that mean? For Joburg alone, those squatter camps, if you take a satellite picture, they are as big as the whole of Sandton. Can you afford to have 3,000 megawatts for them? Will they be able to pay? Is it not financially sustainable to put them off grid now? And maybe even declare that now electricity is for free, but because of the maintenance cost, we can have a minimum flat rate of 50 rand that each house can pay for the maintenance of this. Then we go back into another challenge. Our township have got backyard rooms. Those backyard rooms are now homes because people are renting there, and they now need access to power as well. So solar is going to play a very key role in future for me in ensuring that we take away the pain of people having to think of how they use their pension money to pay for electricity.
You've brought forward a very important message here that the consumer base is changing. We need to think differently about how a utility and a municipality operates on a business model, and how we then provide for everybody in the country sustainable energy for all, basically. So my last question to you is about the utilities. How should they be modifying their business model to reflect on what you have been saying in terms of generation capacity and supply and demand?
So, back to your previous question, to close it, we need to come up with what I call a tariff for the unemployed. And that tariff doesn't need metering, doesn't need to be expensive, and we have to accept it as a country that it's there, so that no one then says, why are those people not paying or paying less and all that. Then what it would mean is your last question. The utilities are not being paid, so they are losing money. And sadly so, their annual reports don't show this non-technical loss for whatever reason. So the model for the utilities is the solar roof packages that I'm talking about. They should be owned by the utilities, Eskom and municipalities. They should be linked to the rates and taxes. So if you move houses, you can't take these away. And you can't do any work on them because they don't belong to you. Okay? So what that means is you now bring what the utilities are currently losing, you're bringing it down and possibly to zero. Because if you look at how utilities are challenged, there are these guys who are doing illegal connections. There are these guys who are selling electricity illegally. So there is money that is spinning around that is not coming to utilities. These guys are collecting from households every month, better than the utilities. So that money is what I call a flat rate that people can afford.
Yeah.
Because they are paying those illegal guys. Okay? So the model then becomes, you put people off grid, you create a new revenue stream, you using less electricity from the Eskom power stations, but they should not be losing any money as well because they'll be buying less coal So it's a direct proportional formula. It's not true that they'll be losing money. They are not getting it anyway today. I can challenge them on that. So because they are part of our government three-sphere program, we need to save them financially. They need to be financially viable, and hence the importance of them owning these systems that we'll be putting in future, including solar water heaters. At the moment, solar water heaters are put out there for free. Nothing stops them to have a surcharge of 20 Rand a month, because they've saved people 100 Rand by putting a solar water heater. So I think they need to sit down. They need to understand their market first. And with all due respect to my colleagues, they need to understand their market. They can't continue closing offices and let people go buy electricity far. People pay for public transport to buy electricity. Huh. That money for public transport should be the one that they're collecting. So that's called being streetwise. No university teaches you this, unfortunately. But you need to walk the streets, go to public meetings, hear what the communities are saying, listen to your politicians, support your politicians, then you've got a good financial model.
That is an outstanding message. Know your customer. Thank you very much, Silas.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pomba van Zyl, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio.